again everyone, it's me, Madame Macabre, and welcome back to a new video. Today we will be picking up on another part of my series for new haunted house workers. Forgive the open wound on the arm. The cat decided she wanted to cuddle and then climb on my shoulder like a parrot and decided to use my skin as a sinkhole to climb. So, moving along. So for today's video is one that actually has been requested a lot in the comments of the previous parts, and I have been planning on getting to this. So those of you who have been wanting this will be happy to know that today we're going to be covering tips for acting in a haunt. So now before we get into talking about acting itself, something that's important to cover is before you even start anything for your evening in the haunt, you want to make sure you are taking care of yourself. And that means stretch your muscles and stretch your vocal cords. That way you and your voice don't get hurt. So before you go in, because depending on your role, you may be climbing things, contorting in weird positions, going nuts. If you don't stretch, you could really hurt yourself or pull something. So always before you actually get out there onto the scene, another thing with getting there early and with enough time is make sure to stretch and warm up before you go into your scene, and be prepared to also get your vocal cords ready, because some roles you may be shouting, growling, doing weird things that's rough on your voice. So make sure to do jaw stretches and exercises, and also try humming and different things to warm up. So the first bit of advice I would give to anybody who's acting in a haunt is to always evaluate what your strengths and weaknesses are and play to those. So not everybody is going to be a massive hulking Jason Voorhees. So if you are not huge, you're probably not going to be able to rely on just your sheer size to intimidate people. So you're going to have to think of other ways to be scary. Maybe you're small, but you're very fast and very quiet. If that's the case, rely on stealth and sneakery to scare people. It's just look at your scene, look at the possibilities, and also look at you yourself. See what you're good at, see what your strengths are, and make sure to utilize those to get the best scares possible. Another important thing to keep in mind is that sometimes when it comes to acting in a haunt, less very much is more. It can be very unscary when somebody is being a little too over the top and constantly rah, 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 making all these noises and stuff. Don't underestimate how creepy subtlety can be. You don't always have to be super over the top, loud, and sometimes even annoying to try and get the best scares out of people. Sometimes they're just the subtle things have more power, whether it be you are in a room, you pop out quietly, they see you, you don't say much. Sometimes not talking at all can be very intimidating, or even if they see you, if you're a distraction or something, you can watch them move across the room and not do any movements, and then a subtle shift, like if they've been hyper-focused on just watching you subtly moving, a sudden change from it. Even a subtle movement as just standing still, watching them with your eyes, and then turning your head or something like that. Little subtle things can get good scares. You just gotta read your room and read your crowd. Because some scenes call for you to be hyper and boisterous and have lots of stuff going on, but other scenes, it doesn't fit. And if you are being too over the top in a scene where it just almost seems comical, that's when you're gonna have the teenagers that will make fun of you. And if you have a thin skin, that's not gonna be good. Apollo, stop scratching at the window. I'm not letting you out. It's pouring down rain. So another good tip, if you are worried about being able to actually scare people, say you're good at playing a character, you're good at, getting into it and everything and portraying what's going on, but you don't think you can be scary, just keep in mind, surprises are always scary. I'm not letting you outside. That's one of the things that all humans have an instinctual fear of. Loud, sudden noises. It's a survival thing. If something suddenly jumps out and makes a noise, you're gonna get some sort of reaction. Even the biggest, toughest guy, even if he doesn't yell or anything, you're gonna give him a spook. So if you've got a place where, hold on. So if you've got a place in your room where you can either hide or you've got a prop that you can bang to make a sudden noise, even if you're talking to them and distracting them in the first place. I've seen people like play mad scientists and stuff. They're talking, they're not even hiding, but suddenly they got wham, sudden noise, and you get screams, and it's great. So when in doubt, find a way to surprise them. That will get a scare. Another tip for getting some really good scares is to listen for names. Sometimes haunts will mess with people and they'll have the hosts who lead the lines talk to people and get names, and they'll send a name down the line and people will know ahead of time. But other times when that doesn't happen, and some haunts don't do it at all, if you listen through the acting walls, sometimes you can hear groups calling each other by their names. So if you hear a name and somebody comes into your group and you can utilize it by calling their name, that can get some really good scares, especially on people who are already freaked out in the first place. And usually girls, I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of the time it's easier to get scares with the girls, especially if you know their names. And along with learning names, another important thing to know is how the formation of these little conga lines that go through the haunt work. Generally, you will have the bravest person in the very front, someone who is also very brave at the very end, and in average, the middle of the train, the conga line, is where the prime scare people are. They are feeling safe because they have the person in front who they think is going to take all the scares, and the person in back who's going to take all the people who linger behind. They think they're cocooned. So if you are really wanting to get some good scares, target those people. They are the easiest pickings. Not to say to completely ignore the harder to scare people. If you've got a really good routine and a really good scare, you can still give it a go. But don't always spring your little skit or gig the second the first person goes through. I always prefer to wait until the beginning part of the group has gone a little past me, and then I go for it. That way I can get right in the middle where the most vulnerable people are, because I'm so nice like that. Now this one is more of an issue with our younger haunt actors because they are still forming a thicker skin because they are new, but you are not always going to scare everybody. Sometimes you'll do your best effort and they'll just look and blink at you and keep walking. Please don't get offended. Please don't take it to heart. Some people are just very hard to scare. And other people, you may have scared them, but they are holding it in and they don't actually express it that way because people express their fear differently. I've had a couple years where there were people you go through, they don't have any reaction. They just look at you and blink and think, wow, they didn't have any fun at all. Why'd they even come? And then they get out and they talk to the director and they're like, that scared the hell out of me. That was the best haunt I've ever been to. And all the actors like, what? So, just because they don't react doesn't mean you didn't scare them. People express fear differently. And even if you didn't scare them, like I said, you're not going to scare everybody. Don't take it personally. And along with the people who just don't have much of a reaction, you're going to have jerk kids that go through, or drunk people, or people just who are just not very mature. And they, as either a coping mechanism to mask their own fear, or as a means to impress the people they're in a group with, they will mouth off to you, they will sometimes insult you, insult your set, insult your costume, just relatively be jerks. First of all, you have to remain professional. Don't let this push you out of character. Don't let this, hurt you to the point where you're crying on set or anything. You have to get a thicker skin to do this because you are interacting with the public, and some of the people in the public are not the nicest. So if you have paper thin skin and somebody insulting your costume or acting skills is going to break your heart and destroy your self-esteem, maybe wait a couple years before you try haunting until you can build up that tolerance, because you can't leave your set. You can't leave your set to cry. You can't break character. The best thing you can do when you have people who are being a pain in the butt, stay in character, and just creatively urge them to leave the room as quickly as possible. Which leads to the next point. Don't ever use the phrase, get out, in a professional haunt. It's extremely unprofessional. People have paid to go through there, so we don't need to be screaming, get out, get out, get out. It's not scary. It sounds rude. It sounds unprofessional. Every haunt I've ever been to is like, don't use this phrase. So don't use get out, get out. Like, especially if it's people that are even if they're not rude, if they're lingering, staying in your room too long, not moving fast enough, don't scream, get out. Get creative. You can still urge them to leave the room quicker. You just gotta be creative with how you stay in character and urge them along, but don't scream, get out. Also, not related to this, but don't say boo. Never say boo. That's for children. Don't boo. That's for Casper the Friendly Ghost. Let him have that. We're in an actual professional haunt house. Don't say boo. So let's say you didn't have a group of little hooligans that were being rude or whatever, or people with no reaction. You did get a good scare. Well, once you've had your scare, don't linger for too long. Unless you are actually planning to do something else, go back, reset, get ready for the next group, because you can break the fear, break the immersion if you've already scared them, and then you just, ooh, I'm standing here, and they get too good of a look at your costume. It'll desensitize people, so don't do that. The only exception to this is if someone in the group is absolutely terrified of you and your costume. Let's say you're a clown and they are terrified of clowns. If you're just standing there and walking up to them is putting them into fits, then by all means, continue to put them in fits until they leave the room. But if you've just had your good scare and they're not having any more crazy reaction, just get back into your spot and ready for the next group, because believe me, you are not gonna have enough time to hit every group that goes through on a busy night, so don't make it harder for yourself. And now for more, I guess, in the acting area, the best way I've found to get really into a character and do well is get used to your scene. Once you're assigned your room, go take a good look at your set. Understand who all the characters are, see what the whole scene is making. Once you've got the scene in your head, start building a story. Your character, the role you are playing, make a character. Give them a backstory if you need to, give them motivations, create a character. Now's the time to let all your creativity and OC building come to mind. Build your character and become your character. That will help you give the best, most sincere performance if you can get into the head of the character. So don't just play a role, make a character. You're the butcher? Okay, who is he? Where did he come from? What's his motivations? Why is he doing what he's doing? Get in that headspace and become that character, and I promise you, your performance will be way better. Now, once you have your character, you're in that headspace, what next? Well, on top of learning your character and seeing your set, you've also observed everything around the set, be it lighting, where shadows are cast, where the good hiding places are, different aspects of the whole room. Now's the time to play with it. You don't have to just do one scare the entire time. Try different things out. Hide over here. Try popping up over here. Try utilizing the light over here. Whatever gets you the best results, you can keep, changing your set until you found the perfect thing that works for you. So play with the room, see what works, change things up. If one thing works the beginning of the night, but later in the night it's not working so well, change it up. You're allowed to explore and find what works best for you and your scene. Now back onto what I touched on briefly earlier with not having enough time to get everybody. In big haunts that draw in big crowds, like smaller haunts that don't get a ton of people, this might not be as relevant, but for the most part, if you were working at a professional haunt that gets good traffic flow, on the busier nights, you are not physically going to be able to get every customer that comes through. There have been nights at my haunt where it was just an onslaught of people, where it was group after group after group after group after group, and we try our best, actors really do, to do traffic control of keeping groups farther apart, but sometimes there's people who, no matter what you do, they're just la 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 going super slow, and then there's the speed demons behind them, and it just creates a huge group of people, and no matter how we try to separate them on those crazy nights, sometimes it takes a couple minutes of just endless chaos to finally get order again. And when those massive crowds hit, you're not going to be able to scare all 35 people that came through in the last 4 minutes. There's going to be times where it's just too many people, like, oh, I got a good scare. Oh, the group's already coming. Let me, what do I do? Let me just chase them now because they already see me. I'm already out. Like, at that point, the best thing you can do is reset your scare. Unfortunately, when the crowds are too big, you're not gonna be able to get all of them. So my advice is get your scare. If it is too crowded, you can't get every single group. You know, stay in character, be creepy, looking at the people who, you know, you didn't have time to scare, but get back into position while being all spooky. Like, unfortunately, they're gonna miss that scare in your room, but they should be able to get the next one because they'll have more time. That way, you're reset. When the next group comes through, then you can get them full force. Like, it's just unfortunately not gonna be possible to get everybody on these crazy nights. So try for, you know, get them, reset, get them, reset, get them, reset. It's the only way to keep your sanity and still be able to breathe by the end of the night, not trying to, oh, hold on, just you don't feel obligated to get every single scare. You better not lick your butt again this time. So the next tip I have for you is make sure you are talking to and getting to know the other actors, especially those that share the room with you or are in the previous room or the room after yours, because you can work together to build the best scares in tandem possible. You can just get that flow going, and if everybody's working together, you can get some real magic. So don't be afraid to talk to them and then try things out and try and get sequences set up, because that can lead to some really cool scares. So really, that's about the best advice I can offer you just from my own personal experiences. Since I'm not an accredited teacher or anything, I can't get too in-depth for like actual acting techniques. That would have to be an entirely different thing. So my advice for you, if you are really struggling with acting itself, look up some other videos. I know they're all over on the internet, especially if you just use the keywords tips for haunted house acting or how to act better in a haunted house. There's got to be tons of videos out there. So if you want more in-depth acting lessons, utilize the internet. Don't be afraid to go in there. There's endless content and lots of people who are happy to help you. So go ahead and arm yourself with that knowledge. So aside from that, the last tips I can offer you to have a successful night, these are less in regards to acting and more just survive the night and have a good time. Always make sure you have water. Depending on where you go, most places will provide you with bottled water, but if for whatever reason they don't, like that first haunt I worked at, bring water with you and bring it onto the set with you. You can find places to hide. There's lots of cubbies and things inside you can store things in. So always have water on you because you're going to be working up a sweat or you're going to be screaming a lot, all sorts of things. Make sure you stay hydrated. It's very important. Also, if you're in a role that requires any sort of screaming or shouting or things like growling that's harsh on your throat, also bring cough drops. I know that at my haunt, they provide cough drops and throat coat drinks, so you could make some of that and bring it onto the set with you. But again, if it's not offered, make sure to bring it. It will save you so much pain and suffering if you have a handful of cough drops on hand on the set when you really desperately need them. Can help you save... It can help you, you know, give you a scratchy, slightly damaged voice versus completely losing your voice altogether the next day. It's also wise to keep a snack in there with you, like a granola bar or something. When the people come through and give it to you, grab some, stash it. If they don't do that, bring your own, stash it with your water. Again, it is hard to keep the energy and passion in your performance up when you are starving. So, you know, stash a granola bar or something. It's worth it to have that little blood sugar boost when you need it. I mean, obviously don't like start guzzling water and eating granola bars right as customers are coming through. But generally, when it's not one of the actual mayhem wave hits, generally you've got like depending on how large your haunt is and how far apart the rooms are and everything, you've generally got about 2 to 5 minutes at, you know, more calm points in the night where you can start to take a couple bites of your granola bar and drinks of your water and then get prepared again and then rinse and repeat until you're no longer hungry or thirsty. Seriously, kids, I know it's fun and you want to stay in character, but take care of yourself. It is very important. You don't want to pass out on set. That will scare everybody around you and not in the good kind of scaring way. Oh, another thing that would be good to know is only wear shoes that you are willing to let get gross, because you don't want to wear your nicest shoes to a place. Most haunts that I have been to, some haunts are set in like cleaner environments, industrial buildings rented out or something, but a lot of the haunts I work at are generally like on farms or in places that have indoor and outdoor environments. So your shoes can get muddy, dusty, scuffed, wet, they go through hell. So wear shoes that you are fine getting a little beat up, and preferably have them be dark colored shoes, because dark colors in a haunt, actually that is an entire point in itself. Dress dark when you are going to a haunt, because even when you wear costumes over your clothes, dark colors won't stand out. Anything dark you wear will just dissolve right into the background and will help you be stealthier. And along with dark colors, be conscious of the type of environment you are working in. If you're in a state or a country somewhere that is very warm around the time of year that the haunt is running, you don't need to worry about layering up. You can just wear, like a lightweight black tank top and shorts or whatever if it's hot, so you don't sweat to death. But like where I am, it's very cold that time of year. So if you're in an indoor haunt, this may not be a concern, but if you're an indoor-outdoor haunt, like the one I worked at, when I was doing the chainsaw, which was outside at this haunt in the middle of October, I started out freezing and got sweating to death by the end of the night, all the running, but I would wear long johns under pants, and then the hexy tights over the pants and the long johns, and then I'd wear a camisole, a long sleeve shirt, and then the costume pieces. So be prepared to layer up if you work somewhere freezing, because you will not be a happy camper if you are violently shivering and miserable the whole time, because it's not fun to be freezing. So just be conscious of where you're working, whether it's indoor, outdoor, how warm or cold you need to be. And with that, I think you guys have enough advice to be armed with the knowledge to go off and be marvelous little haunters. So I wish you the best of luck taking on this wonderful new adventure, and I hope you find amazing haunts and get amazing roles, and you love haunting just as much as I do. This is about all I had planned for this series, though if you guys have some other things you would really, really like me to talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Or if you have other things that are not necessarily haunt related that you really want me to talk about in the story time format, feel free to put it down below, because I do enjoy doing these, because I feel like I'm more interacting with you than just telling you stories. Alright, but that is all I had planned for today, so I will catch you all next time, and until then, stay creepy!